every company, look, every family on earth should adopt the Bitcoin standard, right? What is that, 1 billion families?
Yeah.
Every person on earth should adopt the Bitcoin standard. That's 8 billion people. Every company on earth should adopt the Bitcoin standard. That's 400 million companies. So I think we're very early. I mean, not even 0.1% of companies are doing this, right? So, I mean, if you're less than 1% adoption, you're still pretty early. But you've got about $700 billion of money in the institutional market that could be invested in commodities like Bitcoin. So there's 100x more money available for credit or equity.
Most of the world still holds cash, bonds, or stocks. That's exactly why we're still early. Once that capital starts rotating in, the inflows could send Bitcoin 10 times, 50 times, even 100 times higher. That message comes from Michael Saylor, Strategy's executive chairman. According to Saylor, global Bitcoin adoption is still below 1%. Out of 8 billion people and over 400 million companies, only a tiny fraction have moved onto the Bitcoin standard. That means 99% of the world hasn't even begun accumulating. Saylor compares this phase to the early internet, before email went mainstream, before websites became essential. Right now, Bitcoin is still seen as optional, but over time, he believes it will become inevitable for individuals, businesses, even governments. And when adoption moves from 1% to 5% or 10%, the repricing will be absolutely exponential. Make sure to stick around until the end of the video, as Michael Saylor explains how Bitcoin could absorb trillions in global capital, and why owning even just a small amount of it right now could change your future.
I think in the modern world, the best conception of money is that money has a medium of exchange component and it has a store of value component, and you have a unit of account for the store of value and a unit of account for the medium of exchange. So the right metaphor is just think of the dollar versus BTC, or checking account versus savings account. And so you're going to have sort of high speed dollar type instruments to price things in day to day. And then you're going to have another capital asset that you're going to use to store your value over the course of 100 years. And I think that it's like, I don't run a country, so no one's asking me, but I think it would be a mistake to try to establish a currency with a capital asset. For example, you don't really want to price all your sandwiches in New York City real estate. Nor do you want to price your sandwiches in ounces of gold, nor do you want to price sandwiches in Picasso paintings, right? I think that you've got capital and you've got currency. Bitcoin is capital. It's digital capital. It's not digital currency. I think a stable coin, the dollar, is digital currency, like Tether. And you've got weak currencies and strong currencies. And a weak currency is the Bolivar or the Naira, like something which is inflating at 14% a year or 30% a year. I think you've got strong currencies that are inflating at 7% a year. And then you've got capital, which is not inflating at all. Bitcoin is capital. It's not a strong currency. It's not a weak currency. It's a capital asset. I think that that you have a few currencies that are kind of pegged to the dollar that are struggling on, and I think you have a lot of currencies that are collapsing against the dollar, and then you have the dollar. And so, if the stable coins succeed, and they're going to succeed. If the U.S. passes the Genius Bill, and then U.S. corporations and banks are able to issue stable coins backed by U.S. dollars, then that market's going to go from 250 billion to $1 trillion to 2 trillion to 4 trillion to 10 trillion. And you have to ask the question, who's going to be buying it? And the answer is people that might have otherwise had rubles or CNY or every African currency and every South American currency. So So I think the weak currencies of the world are going to gradually be marginalized. And I think that the dollar will grow. I think weaker currencies will be marginalized. I think that there are 400 million companies in the world, and there's 40,000 big banks in the world. So I think that, and of course there are lots of institutions. So I think that as Bitcoin is integrated into the fabric of the global economy, I think you'll see, right? How about 1,000 banks that are actually trading peer-to-peer with each other? I think that the banks, the custodians, megacorps, I see a world where every major bank and every major tech corp, maybe a Google and an Apple and a Microsoft, they're all settling or moving large amounts of Bitcoin around on the base layer. Governments, you would think that the biggest users of the base layer would be Apple and Google and the US and Bank of China and Bank of Russia and Bank of England. To the extent that any of those things exist, right? If the nation exists, if the bank exists, you would think that Citi would be moving billions of dollars of Bitcoin to B of A, to Wells Fargo, to Santander, to Deutsche Bank, to Swiss Bank, to Bank of Japan. I would think that Microsoft will move billions and tens of billions of Bitcoin between Microsoft and Google in order to work through some, technical issue. I think I think Visa and any of the payment networks, they'll have massive amounts of Bitcoin. So I think that if you're actually an individual and you're using Bitcoin right now, you're one of the early pioneers. If you keep it, you'll be insanely rich. If you take money off the top or you sell it, then you'll remember that you used to have billions of dollars of Bitcoin, but you sold it for Ferrari, and that will be unfortunate. But and so I think that there'll be some OGs that will still be heavily engaged. But I think ultimately, the base network is going to have 10 to 100,000 big financial institutions that are going to be settling large amounts. And I think the network's going to scale in the layer 2s and the layer 3s. I think the Lightning network is going to end up being a high speed, high frequency, lower value settlement network that will stitch together 100,000 or 1 million websites or 1 million mobile apps. Or you could imagine everybody with a mobile app that has payments built in. At some point, they might go peer-to-peer. They won't do it on the base layer. They'll do it on an open protocol layer 2, most likely. And then there'll be like massive competition between Coinbase and Cash App and all the traders and the banks and the high frequency, traders and the next person running MasterCard or Visa. And they'll try to create these layer 3s. Mm-hmm. And they'll have a layer 3 protocol, and maybe Binance wants you to move it on Binance, and Visa wants you to move it on Visa, and Coinbase wants you to use their network, and Cash App, and then Microsoft and Apple Pay, and all these other tech networks. They'll be layer 3s, and if 1 billion people trust Apple, with their credit card, maybe 1 billion people will trust $10,000 worth of Bitcoin to Apple. And then maybe there'll be some successor to Apple, right? Like Tesla bot or something. So I think that there'll be a huge amount of transactions, billions and billions of transactions a day, probably billions an hour on the layer 3s, probably billions a day on the layer 2s. And then you're going to have the same number of transactions, on the layer 1, far fewer. And those will be $100 million, $1 billion type settlements, between the mega institutions. And I think you'll probably see Bitcoin security and Bitcoin credit type ideas built into a lot of financial and technical applications. And there'll be new applications, new use cases that we can't even conceive of right now that will maybe for cybersecurity or social security or something else that will grease the wheels of digital commerce.
Most people still misunderstand what Bitcoin actually is. According to Saylor, it's not a currency. It's digital capital, a long-term store of value designed to hold purchasing power across decades, not days. Just like you wouldn't price a sandwich in New York real estate, you shouldn't use Bitcoin to buy coffee. That's what stablecoins and fiat are for. Bitcoin, he says, is the savings layer. He also believes we're still in Bitcoin's dial-up phase. Out of 400 million companies and billions of individuals, almost no one is using it for serious settlement. But that's going to change. In the near future, thousands of institutions, banks, and tech giants could be moving billions in Bitcoin across the base layer, while day-to-day payments flow through fast, scalable Layer 2 and Layer 3 networks. When that happens, Bitcoin's upside could accelerate beyond anything we've seen.
I think the most exciting thing going on right now is the issuance of BTC-backed equity and the issuance of BTC-backed credit. Because, you're talking about $100 trillion of equity and credit that's discretionary. So if I were to say every public company should recapitalize on Bitcoin, that would be a start, but that would be an understatement because I didn't include the 400 million private companies, did I? And I didn't include every institutional holder of any capital. So I think that that's a very powerful dynamic. And once that starts, that burns 100 million a week per company, a billion, that can burn billions, and that could be billions of dollars a week. And the same with BTC-backed credit. If you look at all the credit instruments, all the preferred stocks, all of the fixed income, all the annuities, all the corporate bonds, all the high yield bonds, the junk bonds, all the investment grade bonds, all that huge amounts, it's all going to be recapitalized or reconstructed on a Bitcoin standard that's bigger than the equity. And so I think that there's a digital transformation of the capital markets going on right now, and it's profound. And what it means is a company like Metaplanet can go from being worth 10 million to being potentially worth 10 billion in a couple of years. So show me a better idea. How do you go from 10 million to 10 billion in 24 months or 36 months? It's not very common. So I really think that's the part that's underappreciated. I mean, people in the business staring at it, like literally most of the crypto OGs that have been in the business for 15 years are staring right at the thing and ignoring it or rejecting it as it's happening. Right? That's the irony to me. So, and I think that's because, again, their metaphor is they're looking for some technical widget to create instead of reconceiving the way that wealth is stored. If you're looking for the technical ideas are just harder. They take a lot more work. I mean, eventually you would think that Bitcoin is the basis for all payments, via something like the Lightning protocol. And so clearly the Internet of Money, that's a cool idea. It's a lot of work. It's going to take a while. And then I think Bitcoin is the basis of all identity and authentication. It's another interesting technical idea. Presumably public-private key cryptography on a Bitcoin network. It ought to replace most of the forms of authentication and identity and verification in the world. So I think that those are two technical dynamics that are operating, but on the other hand, if you launch 100 companies with those two ideas, 99 out of 100 are going to struggle. and one will achieve something maybe, whereas I can take a dying hotel or a dying restaurant chain and I can make it worth $1 billion just using Bitcoin as digital capital. And on the margin, it's more likely to work than not. And so I think that the really big compelling ideas are the monetary ideas, or the financialization of Bitcoin, the securitization of the network. I think the technical ideas will probably come later. They will come. They're coming. David Marcus is doing a great job, with Spark, and Light Spark. I think it's very interesting, and they're having good progress, and I think we'll see a lot more things like that. But those are a little bit more difficult to forecast because of the vagaries of technology entrepreneurship. Every company, every family on earth should adopt the Bitcoin standard. Right? What is that, 1 billion families?
Yeah.
Every person on earth should adopt the Bitcoin standard. That's 8 billion people. Every company on earth should adopt the Bitcoin standard. That's 400 million companies. Now your next question is, well, is there anything I can do that's better than that? Well, there are a lot of other twists to it. If you take a private company, take it public, right? You add value. Now, all of these companies are competing to do something. The issue is, what's the something? And it depends on the company. So I think we're very early. I mean, not even 0.1% of companies are doing this, right? So, I mean, if you're less than 1% adoption, you're still pretty early. There's a lot of different business models you can pursue. If you're a private company and you're raising $10 million in order to fund operating losses, you could just raise 50 million and buy 40 million of Bitcoin and fund 10 million in operating losses. And I would definitely recommend that. That's better, right? Right. So every private company can do that. Now the question is, can you raise the money? Okay, well, it depends on who you are and whether or not we like your company and whether you're trustworthy. So this all becomes an exercise in capital raising.
As Saylor puts it, you need to master AI and own Bitcoin if you want to succeed in today's world. AI is an existential tool for career survival, while Bitcoin could be the real engine of future wealth. If you follow Saylor's strategy, raise capital, find the cheapest debt you can responsibly manage, and convert it into Bitcoin. Forget traditional investments like mortgages yielding 3%. Bitcoin, he says, can return 55% or more. Saylor warns that fiat currencies are collapsing fast, and Bitcoin is absorbing capital at an accelerating rate. The people who act now, by leveraging AI and stacking Bitcoin, will be the ones who build generational wealth. The rest will be left behind. Do you agree with Saylor? Let me know in the comments. If you want to stay most up to date on the crypto and Bitcoin world, subscribe to my daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. It's a concise resource for the latest expert predictions, breaking news, and top on-chain analysis, trusted by over 90,000 subscribers for insightful crypto investment information. Don't miss out on the opportunity to stay informed in the crypto market. The link is in the description below. I hope you all enjoyed today's video and that it gave you some value. I'll see you all at the next one, and as always, all the best.